Here we are reviewing the Monday Night Football games for the 2022 NFL seasons. Now, a couple years back, it seemed like Monday Night Football had a slate of horrible games, almost like Thursday night back in the day as well. Just horrible games that you wouldn't really want to watch. Not a great crew, so the ratings kind of tanked. But during the offseason, they have acquired Joe Buck and Troy Aikman from Fox, paying them a boatload of money. They are the new ESPN Monday Night Football crew, and along with them, it seems like the Monday Night Football slate has been vastly improved, so we will get to that here. We have 18 games over 17 weeks. A note that there is a doubleheader in Week 2 with one of the games on ESPN and one on ABC. So we'll start with the 18th slot and go in descending order. This is the worst Monday Night Football game here on the screen. Bears versus Patriots, Week 7. And this honestly isn't a bad game, which just speaks to how good this slate actually is this season. This just takes the last place spot because I think that the Bears will just not be a great team this season. Obviously, it is the 2021 College Football National Championship rematch between Mac Jones and Justin Fields. Beyond that, I don't think there are many compelling storylines. It is Week 7, so I think the Bears will still be in contention, but they'll probably have like a 2-4, 1-5 record. Patriots will be decent. I think they'll handle the Bears in this one, so I'm going to have this one at the last place slot. Next, we get to 17, where we got the Washington Commanders visiting the Eagles in week number 10. And this will be kind of a revenge game for Carson Wentz going to Philadelphia here. But beyond that, there aren't too many storylines. I mean, it's a division game. You could argue that there's a bit of rivalry involved, but I just don't expect much from either of these teams this season. I think that going into this matchup, both of these teams are under 500. I mean, maybe that combines and lends itself to a close game, but these two teams I just don't think are very good. And Jalen Hurts versus Carson Wentz, that's not very good quarterback play there, although there is a bit of beef. So that's getting the 17th spot for me. Next, we got number 16. We have the Vikings and the Eagles. This is one of the doubleheader games. The other one is Titans-Bills, which will be much higher on this list, so just watch that. Don't even bother watching this game. I think that this one will be interesting. I think it will be a closer type game because I do think these teams are evenly matched. They're just not very good. The Eagles, Jalen Hurts, I already mentioned them. And Vikings with Kirk Cousins, we'll see what they are. But this one will be taking the 16th spot. Next with 15, I think this might be a little bit of a controversial take, but it's not really at all. Cowboys-Giants, Week 3. I mean, the audacity of the NFL to make us see this matchup on national TV twice this season, because I remind you that they have this game in Week 3, and then they have the Thanksgiving afternoon game that is played in Dallas every year, and that's Giants-Cowboys too. So I don't know what the schedule makers were doing. The Cowboys, yeah, they might be decent this year, but the Giants have sold every season for the last 5 years. I know they had a good offseason, but I really just don't think that this team with Daniel Jones is going to make much noise. Sure, it is in MetLife. They may contend in this game, but this is getting the 15th slot because I know a lot of people love this rivalry, but I just don't really myself. And the Giants have not been consistent over the last few years, so this one's getting the 15th spot for me. Next, we got the 14th spot, and this one, it kind of steps up. We got the Steelers versus the Colts here, and I think these two teams are kind of contending for playoffs. I think the Colts are the favorites in the AFC South. It'll be interesting to see how Matt Ryan does this season. This one will be in Indianapolis. And then against the Steelers team, who I don't know who they'll be trotting out there. They got Mitch Trubisky and they got Kenny Pickett. We'll see. This is kind of later on in the season, so maybe Kenny Pickett picks up that starting spot. So that one is a bit more interesting, but we have a lot more intriguing games to come. Next, we got Week 13, and it's already getting a lot better as we have the Battle for Ohio in Week 8. Now, this one would be a lot higher. I just do not know about the suspension of Deshaun Watson, so there is a possibility you're getting a Joe Burrow versus Jacoby Brissett game, or maybe Baker Mayfield. So that's the reason that this is so low. But critical note here, this game will be played on the 31st of October, meaning Halloween, so that will add some entertainment value there. And then Battle for Ohio, this is a rivalry matchup, and these two teams will be contending for that highly contested AFC North, so that will add some more to it as well at the 13 spot. Next, we go to the number 12 spot, and we have the Ravens at the Saints. We got a good little quarterback matchup between famous Jameis Winston of the Saints and Lamar Jackson. Saints tend to have a pretty good and mobile defense, so we'll see if they can defend Lamar there in the middle of the season in Week 9. Next, we get to the 11th spot where we have the Patriots and the Cardinals in Phoenix. And we have two young quarterbacks in this one, Kyler Murray and Mac Jones. We'll see who gets the better of each other. Both of these teams made a wild card berth last year, so I suspect that these two teams will be in playoff contention in Week 14, which will add some value to this game at the 11th spot. Next, we get to the 10th spot, and we have a very good game here in Week 16. I suspect this will have massive playoff ramifications. Just for some reference, this is the day after Christmas. We'll be seeing Matt Ryan versus Justin Herbert at the Colts. I just can't wait for this one already. Chargers will be a vastly improved team, and they'll be in a dogfight in the AFC West, so they'll probably be in wild card contention. I mean, we'll see what the Titans do in the AFC South. Maybe this is for a wild card berth or something like that down the road. So can't wait for that number 10 matchup there. Next, we get to number 9, and it's Saints-Bucks. Now, maybe a few people have it lower than this, but I just think that the Saints have beat the Bucks in the regular season all 4 times in Tom Brady's time in Tampa Bay. This one will be at home for the Bucks, but still, I think it adds some intrigue that this is Tom Brady's last season. He hasn't really done too well against the Saints other than that playoff win there. So we'll see in that one. The Saints were contending last season when Jameis was healthy and almost made a playoff berth as well without him. So we'll see where these two teams are in Week 13. Maybe this one is big in the NFC South in the standings there. Next game, we go to the Week 1 game, Broncos versus the Seahawks. And if we're going by strictly how close the game will be, maybe this doesn't quite clock in as high. But when you factor in that it's the first week of the NFL season and it's Russell Wilson's homecoming game in Seattle. I mean, he gets traded and then he plays in Seattle in Week 1. That is absolutely crazy there. And then you factor in that this will be a Super Bowl rematch from that lopsided Super Bowl. I think that was Super Bowl 48 back in the day where the Seahawks absolutely mopped the floor with the Broncos. So a lot of intrigue there. Russell Wilson starting against the Seahawks, and then also Drew Lock. Can he prove some things against his old team as well? That gets the number 8 spot. Then at number 7, we have the Niners versus the Cardinals, 2 playoff teams from last year in a divisional matchup in the NFC West. Now, I must also mention that this is in Week 11, and it will be played in Estadio Azteca in Mexico City. So this is an international game, which will add some entertainment value to this one. And I just think it'll be a great game between Trey Lance and Kyler Murray. These two faced off last year, and it was pretty close, but we'll see about that development of Trey Lance this late in the season if he is indeed starting. Next game, we get to an AFC West matchup in Week 5, the Chiefs hosting the Raiders. Now, I know that these two teams played last year, and the Chiefs won both games by about 30 or 40 points, but the Raiders still made the playoffs. They still went on a run to end the season. And the Raiders 2 seasons ago were able to upset Kansas City in Kansas City. And then you factor in that the Raiders have acquired Devontae Adams and that the Chiefs have lost Tyreek Hill. I think this division has leveled itself out a bit, should I say. Now, obviously, the Chiefs have the best quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, but Derek Carr can play as well. So this will be a very entertaining matchup in Week 5 there. Then it only seems right. At the number 5 spot, we got the other 2 AFC West teams duking it out the very next week on Monday Night Football. Broncos at the Chargers. Just a great matchup in SoFi Stadium. You got Russell Wilson and Justin Herbert in this one. That will just be lights out action in that one at the number 5 spot. Next, we get to the number 4 spot where we have the other leg of the doubleheader. Reminder, the other one was the Vikings playing the Eagles. So obviously we want to watch this. The Titans versus the Bills. These two teams played on Monday Night Football last year in the Music City. And if it weren't for Josh Allen slipping on a QB sneak attempt, I think the Bills could have won that game or forced it to go to overtime. Either way, it was a massively entertaining game there. Very high scoring. I expect the same thing in this one between two heavyweights in the AFC there. Both made it to the AFC divisional round, so we'll see what happens in that one in Buffalo week 2. Now we get to the number 3 spot where we get a divisional matchup and actually NFC Championship title game rematch in week 4 between the Niners and the Rams. And honestly, this one could have been number 1, and maybe a couple of those AFC West matchups could have been number 1, but it's just the fact that you will see those later on in the season because obviously divisional opponents play each other twice during the season, which brings it a little bit down. But still in this one, the Niners won 6 straight against the Rams. Shanahan seemed to own McVay until the NFC title game last year. And then this one will be played in Levi Stadium, so we'll see how the fans do there against their hated rival now in the Los Angeles Rams. We'll see if Trey Lance starts in this one against Matthew Stafford. A lot of bad blood between these two teams, so it gets the 3 spot there. Next, we get to the number 2 spot. This will be the finale, or at least it is the finale on the schedule right now. We'll see if they have a Week 18 game, but a great one between the Bengals and the Bills. There will be a lot of playoff seeding ramifications in this one. Will the Bills win the AFC East? Will the Bengals win the AFC North? And then what seeds will be in there? Are there wildcard teams involved? You never know here, but Week 17, we just got a great battle between these two squads, and specifically Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. A great QB matchup there. So we'll see that in Week 17 in that finale there. And then the number 1 spot, I have the Rams versus the Packers in Lambeau. In Week 15, this is going to be a cold, old-fashioned game between the Rams and the Packers in mid-December. And it's going to be an old-time matchup between Matthew Stafford and Aaron Rodgers. We thought we'd get it in the playoffs last year, didn't get it, but we saw these two teams play in Lambeau last year. Aaron Rodgers got the better of Matthew Stafford, but now Stafford coming in as the reigning Super Bowl champion against Aaron Rodgers. We'll see that one there, and we will see who comes out on top in Week 15 in that one. That gets my number 1 spot. Please let me know in the comments down below what you think of my rankings. What would your best Monday Night Football game be for the upcoming NFL season? Do you have any massive disagreements? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.